And everyone wants to do more business with India. I would argue everyone does. The US does, Europe, Africa, Latin America. I would argue even India's rivals want to do more business with India. Even China would like to do more business with India, just not. And so to me, I think that this has been a remarkable phenomenon in the way it has contributed to regional and global stability, and it's something to be applauded. It's not bullying its neighbors. It's not seeking to reclaim lost territory. In fact, it's settling its disputes responsibly in international forums. It's being more magnanimous in its neighborhood. It's treating its neighbors more kindly than it had in the past. It is defending the rules-based order.
To get this started, let me first turn to my friend Jeff Smith. Jeff, India at 75. What does that evoke? What does India at 75 mean for you as a global partner of India, as someone who's been watching India, as someone who's been writing on India?
Thank you, Samir, for having me. It's an honor to be on such a distinguished panel. When I think of India at 75, what stands out most to me is that it's become a responsible international actor. You know, international relations theory tells us that when a country so large rises so quickly, traditionally it's been a destabilizing phenomenon. And China has in some way proved these realist theorists correct in the way it's been acting more belligerently, with more nationalism, aggressive in its territorial disputes. You know, it's fairly remarkable that India has risen the geopolitical hierarchy so quickly. It was the 10th largest military spender in the world in 2009. Today it's the third. If China had not overshadowed its rise, all we would be talking about is how quickly India has risen. And yet it hasn't become a destabilizing international actor. In fact, I would argue it's become more responsible. It's not aggressively seeking to redress historical grievances. It's not bullying its neighbors. It's not seeking to reclaim lost territory. In fact, it's settling its disputes responsibly in international forums. It's being more magnanimous in its neighborhood. It's treating its neighbors more kindly than it had in the past. It is defending the rules-based order. It's being a good partner to the West. It's being courted by international capitals across the world. And so, to me, I think that this has been a remarkable phenomenon in the way it has contributed to regional and global stability, and it's something to be applauded. That, to me, is the most remarkable thing about India at 75.
Jeff, clearly you are in a minority, right? If you open a New York Times newspaper or a Washington Post or any other medium, you see write-ups that could be disturbing, to say the least. So, what is the assessment? How does India respond to the United States when it sees these multiple messages coming at it?
Well, first of all, as someone who works at a conservative think tank, criticism from the New York Times is no surprise. It's something we're very familiar with. And you have to understand that Western criticism, particularly in the liberal media, is not unusual. But I think it's very important to distinguish between criticism in the free press and government policy. And if you look at US government policy consistently across multiple administrations, bipartisan administrations, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, they have been consistent in pursuing stronger ties with India. Most of the criticism, whether it's in the US or internationally, has been of Indian domestic policy. But very few have criticized India's international policy. And everyone wants to do more business with India. I would argue everyone does. The US does, Europe, Africa, Latin America. I would argue even India's rivals want to do more business with India. Even China would like to do more business with India, just not on terms that are acceptable to India. And so when you actually look at government policy, India is being courted by a wider number of capitals than perhaps any other country. And sometimes we need to separate the noise in the press from real government policy.
But Jeff, very quickly, how are the 2 countries looking at the future? Where are the points of disagreement and friction? And your assessment of the opportunities over the next few years, and then I'll turn to the external affairs minister. Jeff.
First of all, I think we've done a much better job in recent years navigating differences. And I think the Ukraine issue has been a prominent example of that. Something that in the past may have caused legitimate discord in the relationship is an issue that we've managed our differences quite well, as evidenced by the 2+2 dialogue just a few weeks ago. Minister Jaishankar was in Washington. I think we handled those differences with maturity, and I think the U.S. understands India's perspective better than it used to, and it understands that, as Minister Jaishankar said years ago, sometimes India doesn't take sides, it takes its own side. And that's okay. That's what the Indian government that's what the Indian people elected the government to do, is to take India's side. But the beauty of it is that our interests are often in alignment. And so India's side often is the same as the US and Europe on these issues. But it's incumbent on us to demonstrate why it's in India's interests to cooperate on issues, not tell them and lecture them why it's in their interest, but demonstrate why we have common interests and pursue ways to operationalize those interests. I think we've come a long way in that regard.
Final words from the rest of the panelists. You want to come in on anything that you heard? You have some thoughts on his responses or what you heard as questions. Jeff, would you like to come
I'm
in?
going to be
Short
honest,
answers?
I don't think I understood a single question that was asked from the audience. It
Okay.
was very garbled. But no, this has been a great opportunity to reflect back on India at 75. Samir, I want to give you and the ORF team credit for putting together another fantastic international conference in a challenging environment, frankly. It's been a great honor to share the panel with these esteemed guests. I've learned a great deal, and I look forward to returning again.